Jack Brickhouse Day here at the old ballpark. The Cubs continue to celebrate the 100th birthday of Wrigley Field, and we have the Cardinals and the Cubs on WGN Sports. And we welcome Cub fans from all over the country watching on WGN America, America's home for baseball. And great to have you with us. Alongside Jim DeShays, I'm Len Casper. Cardinals and Cubs, two teams struggling to score runs here since the All-Star break.
Yeah, that's been the case for the Cardinals all year long. Despite that, they've been in the pennant race all season long. They now trail the Milwaukee Brewers by 3 games. When we look at the numbers here since the break, the Cardinals 2-3, hitting just .226, just 2.5 runs per game. Their pitching has really led the way all year long. The Cubs 1-5. They were swept in Arizona, dropped 2 out of 3 from the Padres. They could not shut down that Padre team that, like the Cardinals, have had a very difficult time scoring runs.
Well, the Cardinals were actually tied for first just a few days ago, but they've lost 3 in a row. They're a half game out of the second wild card spot. It's going to be Travis Wood today, looking for his first win in 7 starts. Yeah,
they need to get innings out of Travis Wood. The bullpen has been taxed here in recent days, and they just need him to step up and pitch better. Against the Cardinals this year, he's made 2 starts. He won them both, and he's pitched to a 4.15 ERA in those 2 ball games.
Right-hander Joe Kelly will go for the visitors.
Yeah, he's missed most of the season. He's only made 5 starts because he blew out his hamstring. He's made 2 starts since coming off the DL. First one not very good at all in Milwaukee. Then last time out against the Dodgers in St. Louis, he was really good.
Huge crowds expected all weekend. A lot of blue and red in the seats. And again, it's Jack Brickhouse Day here at the ballpark.
Jarvis fires away. That's a fly ball. Beat the left. Back. That's it. That's it. Hey! He did it. Ernie Banks got number 500. A line drive shot into the seats and left. The ball tossed in the bullpen. Everybody on your...
Brought to you by Budweiser. Great times are waiting. Grab some buds. Ford, manufacturers of America's best-selling brand. Check out our best-selling lineup at your local Ford store or online at localfordstores.com. And by Xfinity, your home for the most live sports. Chicago Cubs baseball in beautiful high definition on WGN TV is brought to you by Xfinity, your home for the most live sports. Heating up once again here in Chicago as the Cardinals were here last night. They were off yesterday. They've dropped 3 in a row. Carpenter, Peralta, and Holiday at the top. Matt Adams second in the league in hitting at .324. Alan Craig having a real tough year so far. John Jay very good against lefties this season. It's a veteran Mark Ellis at second. Tony Cruz catching. Yadier Molina's on the disabled list, and Joe Kelly, the pitcher, will bat ninth.
Cubs defensively, Coughlin gets a start in left field. Brian Sweeney's the center fielder. Nate Scherholtz has good numbers against Joe Kelly. He gets a start this afternoon in right. Third to first will go Valbuena, Castro, Alcantara, and Rizzo. Wellington Castillo behind the plate. Travis Wood on the mound. This is his 21st start. He's 7-9 with a 5.12 ERA. He has not picked up a win since the middle of June. 4 losses, a couple of no decisions his last 6 starts.
Get the umpiring crew for you today. Mike Walensky is a home plate umpire. Mark Wegner's at first. Mike Winters, the crew chief, at second. Andy Fletcher over at third.
Sun is out. Beautiful day for baseball.
Yeah, late afternoon with the shadows, so the lights are on as we get started. And all-star Matt Carpenter digs in against the left-hander Wood. Fastball strike to get us started. Only matinee in baseball. Everything else later on tonight. Well, it has not gone well for Travis Wood here lately, and we were chatting over lunch. If anybody's due, it's him.
Yeah, he's 0-3 with a 7.97 ERA here in the month of July. Walks have been a problem. Misfired much more frequently this year than last. Cut fastball has not been as effective for him this season.
Get your weather. Picture perfect. 75 degrees. Wind blowing out. The southwest at 8. That one drilled into center. Carpenter is aboard.
Well, that's what Carpenter does. He's a line drive machine. Doesn't hit the ball out of the ballpark very often. A lot of line drives, he'll take his walks. That's why he's the leadoff man for the Cardinals. Let's go a little deeper on Travis Wood. Look at some of the numbers. That bloated ERA. Again, the walk rate is up 10%, well above league average and significantly higher than what he did last year. The league's hitting .274 against some right-handed hitters, doing a lot of damage. So that OPS is higher than you'd want it to be. Same with the whip. And, part of the reason why that cut fastball, especially against the righties, batting average against left-handed hitters is .207, which is pretty much the way it's been throughout his career. But right-handed hitters this year hitting just under .300 against him with 9 home runs. And I think it's the inability to get ahead, strike one and then in on the hands with the cutter. That's the way he worked last year, and that's when he was at his best. Hitters are kind of savvy to that cut fastball now. They're laying off of it early, and he's not getting the weak contact that he did last season.
He's from Arkansas. A lot of Cardinal fans in Arkansas. I'm sure he has family and friends back there watching us today on WGN, rooting for the Cubs.
Kind of trying to remind himself to get on top and get that ball down. And when you're going through a funk like Travis Wood is, you just start to second guess everything. And you just don't let it happen. You start thinking about everything.
It's 2-0 on Peralta. He pops it up on the infield. Buena makes the catch. That's the first out. And it'll bring up Matt Holliday. Now the Cardinals 3.68 runs per game. Only the Padres have scored fewer runs per contest. Last year the Cardinals averaged 4.8.
Yeah, it's amazing. Led the league in runs scored last year. Now they're better than only the Padres. A lot of guys having down years, including this man.
Strike called. Matt Holliday. Cardinals at one point had won 10 of 14 to jump into a first place tie with Milwaukee in the division. They dropped to 3 in a row. Right now tied for second, along with the Pirates.
Well, they're dead last in the league in home runs. They don't steal a lot of bases, and the kind of the interesting thing is that's kind of the way they were last year too. But they hit an absurdly high 330 with runners in scoring position last year, and there's no way you can expect to duplicate that. If you think you're going to duplicate that, you've made a mistake.
Mike Matheny.
It's just not a repeatable skill.
From 330 to 244.
Which is pretty much league average. Last year what they did was near historic. Pretty much the same guys.
Holiday, by the way, hitting 359 with runners in scoring position. But by and large, you're right. It statistically has never really been shown to be a repeatable skill, as you said. And what does that mean? It basically means if a guy hits 360 with runners in scoring position one year, does not mean he's going to hit that the following year. You know, we have all these situational stats now. Sometimes you just got to keep it simple, stupid. Good hitters are good hitters.
Yeah. And, you know, and sometimes it's just presented with opportunities, or balls fall in some years that don't fall in the next.
Played inside, 2-2.
Matt Holliday has hit 8 home runs this year. He's hit all of those against right-handed pitching. Inside with a cut fastball. That's where they tend to pitch Holliday. Try to crowd the big guy. Don't let him get those big arms extended. He is strong as an ox.
Another single. And the ball squared up by Holiday. So 2 on with 1 out. How about a little exercise here? You ready?
Jumping jacks?
No. Mind
Kind
exercise.
of, okay. Oh, that's even worse.
No, this will be easy.
Okay.
Would you say Anthony Rizzo's having a really good year at the plate?
I would indeed.
Do you know what he's hitting with runners in scoring position?
I'm going to say he's hitting 261. I'm just picking a number out of midair.
Anthony is hitting 229 with runners in scoring position. But if you asked anybody who follows the National League, they would say he's probably one of the 5 best hitters in the league this year.
Well, in what's his on base percentage?
377.
So he's taking his walks, and he's doing damage.
Yeah, he's walked more than he has struck out with men in scoring position. So it can be a bit overrated. Adams at 324, trailing only Troy Tulowitzki, who's batting 340. Adams does not walk very much. And a ground ball, they'll try to turn it here. They get none. And the Cardinals will grab the lead. Carpenter scores. Alcantara's throw was a little high. It looked like Starlin got a glove on it. So in an effort to get 2, they get none.
Yeah. Let's tell you, you want to get that ball to the turn man in a hurry with Matt Holliday running, because he's very aggressive. I think there's culpability on both ends here. That's a tough throw. So Alcantara charged with the error. I don't know if Castro could have just hung on a little longer. Not worried about turning 2, just catch the ball and try to get the out at second base. Again, Holliday, the wild card there. He puts a lot of pressure on a middle infielder.
I don't know if Starlin's foot was on the bag when the ball hit his glove. So even if he had caught that,
right? Yeah, my point is,
called him safe.
My point is, don't try to turn the 2. Just stay put.
Right.
Catch that throw and then just bail out.
Fouled off by Craig.
He's thinking too. He's trying to go out and get the ball.
I think
and
the throw
get airborne.
Took him.
Yeah, definitely. It's clearly Alcantara's error. With an assist to Holliday. Just changes the equation a little bit.
A real struggle for Craig. One ball, one strike.
Cardinals also lead the league in grounding into double plays. Put the ball on the ground a lot. They don't have a whole lot of speed. They don't have the kind of guys where you tend to start runners to stay out of double plays.
Swung at a pitch in the dirt, 1-2.
Good result on the changeup there for Wood. He may work that pitch in a little bit more frequently.
Nearly hit him that time, 2-2. Well, their top prospect, we've been hearing about him forever. Named Oscar Taveras. He's a left-handed hitter, and he is on the big league club. Mike Matheny's just kind of trying to find the right combo right now. Mainly a corner outfielder. Obviously, Holiday's going to play most days in left. Strike 3 called. Craig did not like that particular call, but his opinion doesn't matter. 2 down. First strikeout for Wood.
Cutter. A little inside, but he gets the call.
Like the four corners defense on that pitch tracks chart. But yeah, the Cardinals have moved a lot of pieces around. You know, Wong, Ellis, second base, Borges and Jay in center. They've used Taveras. Just have not found that right combo.
It seems to me the last couple of years they're always looking to replace John Jay, and he always manages to find his way back into the lineup.
Yep. Well, he's hit .388 against lefties this year, and he's 10 out of 25 lifetime against Travis Wood.
Doesn't hit for power, but he's one of those guys that has always stayed in there well against left-handed pitching.
Jay went around. Call made by Mike Malinsky from behind home plate. 1-2. That is not a split you see very often.
No, it is not.
For a left-handed batter. Inside that time.
Travis's fastball will typically sit in the high 80s, touch 91, 92 on occasion.
And into the left field corner. Jay does it again against Travis Wood. Holiday scores. Adams will score.
Oh
my. Well, it is Jack Brickhouse bobblehead day, as Jack would have said, old brother. 3-0 St. Louis. Might be an error there. Looked like Coughlin had some trouble with it in the corner.
Indeed he did. And Jay continues his good work against left-handed pitching and against Travis Wood in particular. Slicing line drive down the left field line. Coughlin tries to backhand the carom. Drops it. Can't find it. Give him 2 RBIs and advance on the air, and then it squirts out of Castro's hand. No further damage done. 2 errors in the inning. Sloppy start for the Cubs here this afternoon.
This will not make the manager happy. He was talking with us before the game about continuing to grind it out here. Cubs got blown out last night by the Padres. But Ricky certainly was hoping for a better start today. And they need some innings out of the starting pitcher. A couple of guys down in the bullpen this afternoon. 0-2 on Mark Ellis. Blocked by Castillo. That's the other thing. You have a struggling starting pitcher, and you certainly want to give him as much help as possible on the defensive end, but 2 errors here early. Still 1-2. Catcher Cruz on deck. As you see, already a 30-plus pitch inning. Catch by Rizzo as that soft liner forced him to leave his feet. They get 3. Here come the Cubs when we come back. Mazda in the 2014 Mazda 3 was seamless connectivity. The Cubs actually scoring more runs per game than the Cardinals. Cubs at 3.87. Coughlin, Alcantara, and Rizzo at the top. Bonifacio getting a day off after 3 straight. Castro, Valbuena, and Castillo in the middle. Sweeney will start in center. Scherholtz in right, and Wood the pitcher batting 9.
Cardinals defensively, Holiday, Jay Craig, left, center, right. Carpenter, Peralta, Ellis, Adams around the horn. Cruz behind the plate. A good defensive club. They've only committed 49 errors this year, second fewest in the National League. Only the Reds are better, and the advanced metrics like them too. The defensive run saved. They score high marks. 26-year-old right-hander Joe Kelly. As the pitching for the Cardinals this afternoon, he's only made 5 starts because of the hamstring injury. 2-1 with a 2.84 earned run average. The ERA when he got hurt was about half a run. Hasn't pitched a whole lot. 25 1/3, 26 hits. Has not yet allowed a home run. 7 walks, 16 strikeouts. Hard thrower. Fastball that sit comfortably in the mid-90s. He'll throw a ton of them. A lot of two-seamers. Gets a lot of ground ball outs. Bit of curve, a change, and a slider as well.
So the 3 runs for the Cardinals were unearned. And a strike on Coughlin. Outside. 1-1. Kelly missed almost 3 months on the DL with the strained hammy. Suffered running the bases. Shelby Miller will return to their rotation from the bullpen. Carlos Martinez goes from the rotation to the pen.
Take a look at some further numbers. That ground ball percentage way above league average. Despite being a hard thrower, he doesn't strike out many. He's got a strikeout rate of 15%, well below major league average.
There's a changeup.
That's, you know, obviously it's a small sample this year, but that's been the case throughout his career. Attacks the strike zone with that two-seamer and is willing to put the ball in play early. That's kind of been the MO for the Cardinals pitchers over the years. All those Dave Duncan pitching staffs, that's the way they've gone about it.
Live ball out into right center. And it looks like Jay from center will come over and make the catch. If you'd like to be part of our fan cam segment a little bit later, you can tweet us your Cubs selfies at hashtag WGN Cubs. Hey, hey. Yeah, it's Jack Brickhouse Day. Pat Brickhouse will join us for the 7th inning stretch. Nice shot of Mark Stencil and Wynn Griffiths from our WGN crew riding their bikes to work.
Commodores, we wrote that with Jack in mind. Maybe not.
Ball one on Arismendi Alcantara. Sinker for a strike. Tough start last night against Tyson Ross. He struck out in his first 2 trips, but he ended the night 2 for 5 with a steal and a run, and he bounces one off the plate on a bunt attempt, and he's going to make it. Infield single for Alcantara.
Nobody's good enough to try to bunt the ball off of home plate, but that sure was pretty. Tony Cruz probably should have let that ball go. See if he could get a kick to go foul, because he's not going to throw out Alcantara. Having Molina on the DL. Not sure when he'll be back.
With his speed, if you could perfect that, he could bat 1,000. Brings up Rizzo, leading the league with 25 home runs. He's hit now in 9 in a row.
Cruz, no Molina back there, but he throws okay. This year there's been 12 steals, 2 caught with Tony Cruz behind the plate, but for his career he's thrown out 29%. That's better than league average.
Fastball to make it 1-1.
.924 OPS for Rizzo puts him in pretty elite company.
A little low that time.
You're probably wondering how elite. I'll tell you here in a minute.
I believe 5th, top 5.
You are correct, sir.
You have the 4 guys ahead of him.
Tulowitzki, McCutchen, Goldschmidt, Stanton.
Wide, it's 3-1. Castro on deck.
Kelly normally aggressive. A little tentative here with Rizzo. You're going to be cautious. You might as well be cautious throughout here. Got away with it.
Popped up into shallow center, and it's the shortstop Peralta.
Funny, you nibble, and you put yourself into a hitter's count, and Kelly challenged And again, the beauty of a 96-mile-an-hour fastball. You have to challenge with a heater over the heart of the plate. In that kind of life, sometimes you win the battle. That one right down the middle of the plate, and Rizzo just not able to get the head out in front of it. Second time around, I doubt he would have that much luck with that 3-1 heater right there.
In 101 for the Cubs. Start 101 for Castro. As the Cardinals pitch out. The injury for Yadier Molina is a torn ligament in his right thumb. He had surgery in July and is not expected back until the final month of the season. That gets away from Cruz and allows Alcantara to get into scoring position.
Cardinals 4-5 since Yadier Molina went on the disabled list. It's pretty much been a 500 club for the last month. You look at the breakdown. Last 10 games 5-5, last 20 games 10-10, last 30 games 15-15.
I would say they've been a 500 club.
It's treading water. Kind of mediocre, but still just 3 games off the pace. The Brewers had a comfortable lead, then they went in the tank for a while.
.2-0 from Kelly. Good rip at that pitch. Castro fouled it back. By the way, I've always wondered what's so bad about the tank.
I don't know. What is the tank? Where is the tank?
Must not be good.
In the tank.
I mean, I guess the Cardinals possibly were treading water in the tank since they were at 500. Backhanded by Peralta. We'll talk more about his defense a little bit later on. It's been a topic lately. 3-0 Cardinals after an inning. With his surgery today to one of the newest Cub fans, Logan Dominic Courtier. Good looking guy. Travis Wood gave up 3 unearned runs in the first inning. I'll send out happy birthday wishes. Number 17 to Dakota Ola from Highland, Indiana. Swing and a miss. That's the thing. You look at this series, you go, well, at least the Cubs don't have to deal with Yadier Molina. Always seems to do something to help his team with the bat against the Cubs, but his team leading 3-0 early anyway.
Yeah, the Cardinals lost the guy they could least afford to lose, not only against the Cubs, but against the league. Against the Cubs, he's been outrageous, 389 this year. In his career, 76 driven in, 17 go-ahead RBIs. But the fact that he's a productive hitter, but the weapon he is behind the plate, shutting down the running game, the way he handles the pitching staff, their most valuable piece down for a while.
3-1 on Cruz. Foul back our way, according to Slate.com. In the tank came from a phrase long ago. Quote, aquatics by way of pugilism. Americans called swimming pools tanks in the 19th century, and thus go into the tank, synonymous with to dive.
So in boxing, if you took a dive, you would go in the tank.
Yep. Makes sense.
Lose unexpectedly, perhaps.
Still 3-2 on Cruz. The pitcher Kelly awaits on deck. And a base hit. Third comeback single already for the Cardinals. Carpenter and Holiday in the first.
Well, Cub fans, if you want to manage the game along with Rick Renteria, log on to WGNTV.com right now. Click on the WGN Sports Game Zone banner to connect to all the up-to-the-minute stats and information while you watch from home. Game Zone is sponsored by The Great Escape, pools, patio sets, play sets, hot tubs, and more.
Wanted foul by Kelly.
Travis was running towards home plate as he delivered that pitch. Both pitchers in this game, very good athletes, can swing the bat, field their position.
Well, that's appropriate. Kicking off Hall of Fame weekend. Greg Maddux and Tom Glavine, good athletes. Maddux, maybe the best fielding pitcher of all time.
You know what Maddux was really good at too? I know I've mentioned this before. He was really good at letting the ball go. You know his comebackers, we saw the one to Ross yesterday, threw the bare hand up and it deflected off his hand. I saw Maddux on a number of occasions start to reach and then go nope. Aware of where everybody was on the field behind him.
Swing and a miss, throw to second, and Cruz is out by a mile. They tried a little sneak attack, hit and run. Didn't work.
Yeah, understandable because of the way the Cubs were defending the bunt, with Rizzo being so aggressive, Wood being such a good athlete. So you had a three-man blitz coming there as Kelly squared the bunt on the previous pitch. Kelly can't swing the bat a little bit. Not a bad idea by Mike Matheny, but the pitch was up in the zone a little bit and Kelly couldn't make contact.
Another 1-2 just off the outside corner. Well, Maddox's durability, same for Glavine. Very, very underrated and very much a part of those two guys' success. The team's always got good value out of them because they were healthy. Oh, look at that. Greg Maddux and Ernie Banks, Mr. Cub. That's from earlier today in Cooperstown.
Ernie was saying, pull my finger.
Coughlin makes the catch. 2 down.
For guys who could throw the baseball, a couple of 31s. Fergie and Maddox, how about that? Similar skill sets too. You talked about the athleticism. Fergie could really hit. Guys that had great command, didn't walk many.
Strike on Carpenter. Leads the league in pitches per plate appearance at 4.33. At second base last year, but he's back at his natural spot, third in 2014.
Some hitters, you get down, no balls, 2 strikes, and you just feel, all right, any number of ways I can put this guy away. Not Carpenter, he hangs in there, good 2-strike hitter.
Happy 26th birthday, Matt Arp, watching in Denver on WGN America. Ball just off the outside.
I think with a guy like Carpenter with 2 strikes, you're probably better off going in because he's going to stay back and let the ball travel.
A base hit. And he smacks one into center. He's 2 for 2. A reminder, tomorrow at 5:30 Central on WGN Sports, it's Chicago's Call to the Hall, hosted by Dan Roan, live from Cooperstown. Maddox and Thomas, the Chicago headliners. Tony La Russa, former White Sox manager. Bobby Cox. Mentioned Tom Glavine, Joe Torre. What a 2014 class it is. Torre, 4 World Series rings with the Yankees. La Russa won 3, one with Oakland, 2 with St. Louis. Bobby Cox won the 95 World Series with the Braves, over 2,500 wins for him. Frank Thomas, a career on base percentage of .419. Third best by a right-handed hitter ever. Glavine won 305, 4th most among all lefties. And then you have Greg Maddux, 355 wins, 18 Gold Gloves.
4 consecutive Cy Young awards. Number 1 came here in Chicago. We're taking a little off, going with a slider there as opposed to the cutter, and he's shown a willingness today to mix in his pitches a little bit more. He's thrown a couple good change-ups, softened that breaking ball from time to time.
And obviously Larry Himes takes grief for letting Greg go. But even if Maddox were pitching today with all the velocity we hear about, somebody may have let him go early in his career. He won't go in as a Brave or as a Cub. He will not have a team logo on his cap. That's a much bigger deal now than it used to be because players move all over the place. Tony La Russa, same situation. Three and 2 with 2 down. That means Carpenter will get a head start.
That Rizzo will peel off and defend the field a little bit.
And pulled foul. So Johnny Peralta, considered by many to be good defensively on balls hit right at him at short with 0 range. And it's interesting. His defensive metrics are terrific. He might be a better shortstop overall than people think just by watching him play. And some people say, well, the metrics are skewed because he shouldn't be ranked as highly as he is.
Yeah, I was looking at some numbers on him when we saw him last time, and he was rated very highly.
They're not perfect. But I choose, when I see something like that, not to go, wow, it means the stat is flawed, it doesn't work. Makes me wonder if what I had thought about a player was maybe not quite as accurate.
In this game in general, labels get thrown on guys, and then it becomes, common knowledge. Everybody believes it until you see something otherwise. This guy's a step too slow. We always say with older guys, right? Guy turns 33, 34, he's lost a step. Well, maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. It's just doesn't have quite the throwing arm that he used to have. Maybe, maybe not.
And with the advent of the major shifting, a lot of that is range too. If you put a guy in a spot where generally a player is going to hit the ball, you don't necessarily need to have as much quote.
Right, because they do a lot of that data they assemble is balls hit in a given area, and if a guy gets to it, it counts in his favor, right? So if a guy's cheating a step because of their advanced scouting reports, and so he's better positioned to go get that ball.
Yeah, Perry Hill, the great infield coach with Miami, he always thought range was about positioning, no doubt.
Positioning, anticipation, read the pitch, understand the count, understand the hitter tendencies.
I think the equivalent is the good base runner doesn't mean fast necessarily. There are guys who are really good base runners because they do everything but run fast. They do everything well, and that matters.
I think the best infielders. Remember they used to talk about Gretzky in hockey, how he knew where everybody was on the ice, and he'd make all these blind passes, and you just saw things happen a step or two before everybody else. That's the same thing with the best infielders. You just have this intuition that right before the pitch, they'll sense what's coming. They'll start to lean or cheat a certain way. Outfielders too. Many times in my career when I'd come set, I'd look up and I'd see the center fielder running straight back to the wall.
Way too many pitches early for Travis Wood as he tries to get out of this inning. 64 and counting.
Yeah, and the Cardinals strike out less frequently than any team in the National League. They draw a fair number of walks, and they just battle and hit for a decent average. Carpenter at the top sets the tone with all the pitches he sees.
Another full count. Long look by the pitcher, gets his sign. Runners go on the 3-2. Called strike 3 on a borderline pitch. Holiday thought it was outside. Mike Malinsky said nope, it was in there, Matt. 3-0 St. Louis. Blog at WGNTV.com. It's sponsored by Jeff Vukovich, your nationwide insurance agent, serving the area for 36 years. To join the nation, contact Jeff at jeffvuk.com. Nationwide is on your side. Eddie Vedder sings The Stretch. We have video and our tribute to Jack Brickhouse. Great to see from our WGN staff, Jeanette Rivera-Rosa and Bridget Gonzalez. Bridget just got a promotion, and that means she doesn't have to deal with us much anymore. So congrats, Bridget. Enjoying a late afternoon of Cubs baseball.
Congratulations. Good stuff.
Sinker from Kelly misses outside. Let's see the strikeout pitch from Travis Wood.
It's a heck of a pitcher's pitch. Matt Holliday didn't like it. Go to school on that one if you're going to get it called. Don't overthink it.
Two and 0 to Valbuena. Well, that could be a big pitch for Travis Wood. That would have extended the inning even more. As it is, he's had to make 66 pitches through 2 innings. Have a little fun with Valbuena and Carpenter. See who takes more pitches today. Although Carpenter may get another plate appearance. He's leading off. Valbuena hitting 5th, but two of the most patient guys in the league is Luis takes the leadoff walk.
The 70 celebration continues through the end of this homestand. Got the Cardinals here for the rest of the weekend. And then the Rockies are in for a 4-game set starting Monday night. Make sure to visit WrigleyField100.com for all the planned 70s festivities. For tickets, visit Cubs.com.
Slide the family stone as we continue to rock the 70s. Thank you for letting me be myself. MICEELF again. Oh, 0-1 on the Cubs catcher. It's the curveball from Kelly. 1-1. 0 complaints about the weather. Had a strange series against the Padres. Temperatures right around 90. Incredibly humid Tuesday night, and then all of a sudden it became October. Wednesday and Thursday evening, comfortable but cool, we'll call it. Today, right in the pocket. Mid-70s.
Baseball weather. Kelly trying to go down and away, has this ball drift up and in a little bit, but catches the inside corner at 96.
Lined out into right center and a base hit. Valbuena will head toward third. First and third with nobody out.
Boy, tough not to pop that pitch up. 97-mile-an-hour fastball with action. Riding up and in a little bit, but Castillo gets on top of it enough. Hit that line drive out into right center field for a base hit, and Valbuena hustles on into third. Big chance here for the Cubs.
Cardinals will play their middle infielders back at double play depth. And with nobody out. Left-handed hitting Ryan Sweeney takes a strike.
Castillo's now hitting 4 straight, 5 of his last 6 as he tries to rebound from the off first half. a suboptimal first half in the parlance of the day. He wasn't in the tank. He didn't go in the tank. He was kind of teetering on the sides of the tank. He never did go in.
It's fouled, third base side.
Sweeney hits the ball on the ground a lot. Trying to guard against in this at bat. Cardinals will take 2 and allow a run to score. It's not a good trade from the Cubs' point of view.
Down at the plate. So Joe Kelly has the equivalent of basketball high tops on. If that's a little extra protection on the ankles.
Got a very loose delivery, long limbs.
In the air, well hit out into deep left center, and that ball is gone. How about that? He just tied it. Ryan Sweeney with his second of the year.
How about that? Never mind not just hitting it on the ground, but driving it into the bleachers. New life for Travis Wood. First home run allowed by Joe Kelly this year. Two-seam fastball. Outer third, up a little bit. Great approach by Ryan Sweeney. Hits the ball in that direction a lot. Just doesn't hit it out of the ballpark that often.
The wind is blowing out to center, but he didn't hit that one very high. I would not call that a wind-aided homer per se. Didn't hurt, that's for sure. Sherholtz pops it down the left field line. A little drop without a play. Well, what a turn of events. After that bad first inning in which the Cardinals got 3 unearned runs. Got a laboring starting pitcher, but the offense helping him out. And we know Travis can hit, and he's on deck. Little high, 1-2.
Travis is such a good hitter. I wonder if there are times, he'd probably never admit to it, where he stands there on deck going, gee, I don't mind if this guy ahead of me doesn't get on, because if he gets on, I'm going to have to bunt. I'd rather swing.
Pulled to right and deep, but foul. Nate has dropped under 200 on the year. You see what he's done against Kelly. Good numbers. He has struggled a lot against righties this year. And he awaits a 2-2. Swing and a miss, strike 3. Let's step aside and see what's coming up on WGN. Cardinals and Cubs as Travis Wood gets his first shot at the plate. That 3-run homer by Ryan Sweeney representing the first earned runs the Cubs have scored against Joe Kelly. Now in his last 4 starts versus Chicago. He had allowed 1 earned run over his previous 3. curve strike 0-2. Anaheim, California native on an 0-2. Breaking ball bounced to the shortstop Peralta, and as we talked about his defense, I knew it was coming. An error.
He had made a few earlier in the year and then tightened things up. That's the 9th error charged to Johnny Peralta this year.
You can laugh at your expense, Johnny. Here's Coughlin. Well, the Cubs kicked it around in the first, and the Cardinals took advantage. See if the Cubs can do that here in the bottom of the second. One and nothing. Got a tweet from Tom Steinhagen. Says, I keep seeing Cubs players disappear down the stairway after their bats. What's down there? The bat rack. It used to be in the actual dugout, but they made for some more room, so guys go grab their helmet. The extra bats down in the tunnel. Ellis will get the out at first. Boy, Wood went sliding in pretty hard at second, thinking he was going to have to break up a double play. Throw never came there.
Yeah. Well, and two, guys sometimes after making out, they need a little alone time.
So where Wada and Hendricks are sitting, right there on the right of your screen, that's where the bat rack used to be.
Coughlin going to go put his helmet back.
Yeah, created a maybe 2 or 3 more seats in that fairly crowded dugout. On the side.
Base hit. Likely scores the go-ahead run. You can't say that with all pitchers, but Wood, good enough athlete where he's going to score on just about any base hit that gets through the infield.
Kelly ahead of Alcantara, 1-2. Breaking ball bounced to second. So here's the question. Can Travis Wood now get it together and settle in after Ryan Sweeney hit the homer? Is it going to be one of those days? We will find out when we return. It's 3-3. To 200 guests for corporate gatherings, family reunions, and bachelor or bachelorette parties. Individual and group tickets are available for all games. For more details, go to WrigleyvilleRooftops.com or call 773-248-ROOF. Ryan Sweeney has tied the game with a 3-run homer. That makes Virginia Pressey very happy on her special birthday. Watching the game with family members Glenn, Linda, and Janine, and family dog CJ. And Mrs. Pressey, please leave a piece of cake for Gary. He'll be there right after the game ends. Adams to lead off here in the Cardinal third. Cutter for a strike. As I mentioned, going to break. Just a rough 2 innings, and now all of a sudden Wood takes a breath, gets efficient, keeps his team in the ball game, or is it going to be the same
just
kind
a
of day?
Battle, right?
And I guess the answer you would probably give is it can be random. You just never know if it's going to get locked in or if not. Right? Some days you have a bad couple of innings and you're good.
Right,
and other days,
yeah. Sometimes you're bad and you don't give up runs. You get away with some mistakes early on, and that's what propels you going forward. Days like today, you scuffle, you give up some runs, a couple of misplays behind you. Then your guys come back and score. You kind of, you have that internal conversation. You're sitting there in the dugout kicking yourself. Okay, let's go, man. You're back even. Let's take advantage of it.
Adams to left. Coughlin makes a catch. During that at bat, Matt Adams rattled around a foul ball into the Cardinal dugout. Looked like it hit Joe Kelly, the pitcher. That's 58, doubled over.
Got him. Not a lot of room to hide once the ball gets in there. It's tough for the ball to get in there. There's not a lot of room. And once it does, it starts bouncing around in there. Not sure where it got him.
Well, I suppose unintentional theme of the day is the size of the dugouts here at Wrigley. Yeah, you got to be paying attention because dugouts are not too far from home plate. Even though you've got that fence, that chain link fence in front, as you said, there's a little amount of room to allow a ball to get in there. So we'll keep an eye on Joe Kelly. Did you ever get hit in the dugout?
Oh, I'm sure I did. Yeah, nothing too menacing though. Usually you just want to sit next to somebody and push them in front of it. That's normally what you try to do. Give up your teammate.
That was foul. Most big league dugouts now do have some sort of fence in front of it. Not all. A lot of the old quote dugouts in the all-purpose AstroTurf stadiums were not actually dug out. They were on field.
Yeah, you just walked right in. See, with that many bodies in such a small space, somebody's going to pay. Once one gets in there, somebody's going to get hit in all likelihood.
He got him on strikes for the second time. 3 punch outs for Travis Wood, all of the looking variety.
Well, he painted the outside corner down and away to Holiday on a questionable one. He's gotten Craig both times with pretty much the same pitch, fastball, just on or just off the inside corner. Last time it looked like it was a little bit off the plate. This time it catches the inside corner.
So Jay on Wednesday against Tampa Bay struck out an at bat during which he took 4 pitches out of the strike zone. It's rare, but it does happen. Everybody will forget the count. The umps can use replay now to confirm what the count actually is, but apparently nobody caught it in time. Mike Matheny took the blame for it. Scoreboard missed a ball in the at bat, and that led everybody to believe it was a 3-ball count, not 4. Jay thought there was something fishy, but officially it's a strikeout. And no pitcher's going to say, yeah, it was ball 4.
Yeah, you don't wait and just say, okay, go ahead, take your base. Seems hard for me. I remember pitching every now and then, looking in at the umpire, just getting verification. 2-2. If a hitter, you get 4 turns roughly a game, right? You think those guys would never lose track of the count.
Yeah.
4, sometimes 5.
If the scoreboard is wrong, the home plate umpire is usually monitoring it, and he will correct the scoreboard operator. Jay grounds out. Looks like Kelly is okay. It's 3-3 after 3.
Average shot right here. Strike 3. It's a no-hitter. A no-hitter for the kid, Bert Hooton. And look at him grab him. Everybody pouring out of the bench. Fans racing onto the field. Bedlam at Wrigley Field. What a way. What a way.
One of Jack's great calls. Bert Hooton's no-no 1972 with Fergie Jenkins alongside. 3-3 bottom of the third. Kelly got hit by that foul ball. We're not exactly sure where. Originally we thought maybe he got hit in the head. Now we think possibly in the non-throwing arm. Sinker low and away, 2-0.
Yeah, it looked like the trainer, as he started Kelly up the tunnel, looked back to Matheny and pointed at his left elbow. Tentative with Rizzo last time. Fell behind him 3-1. Threw him a fastball over the heart of the plate that Anthony popped up.
No. 3-1.
Two-seam fastball off the plate. but called a strike. Here he goes, 3-1 again. See if he gets a similar challenge fastball. And can he do something with it this time? Breaking ball.
Full 3-2.
That's where that 3-1 breaking ball, and that puts everything in play for a hitter now. You have to sit on any one pitch.
Muscles Allen into right. He's got a 10-game hitting streak. First 10,000 fans through the gates today, getting a Jack Brickhouse bobblehead, and it's an audio bobblehead. We've got the 500th home run hit by Ernie Banks, Jack's iconic call. And not only was he a Cubs broadcaster, but he announced for basically every team in town except for the Blackhawks. 3 World Series, did boxing and wrestling. Was hired originally by WGN Radio 1914. That was from Peoria. Got the Ford C. Frick Award from the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1983. American Sportscasters Association Hall of Fame 1985. Look at the bow tie.
Wrestling as you like it. March of 1953.
It cost you 15 cents, that program.
You ever do any wrestling, Len?
No. Called any wrestling. Career best 10-game hitting streak for Rizzo, by the way. I called a Derek Lee Chris Young fight once. It was weird.
Chris Young, the outfielder, or Chris
No,
Young, the big
pitcher.
right-hander?
Two of the most mild-mannered guys in the world, and Young threw up and in on Derek. I think he hit him, and then Derek charged the mound. And neither guy really looked like they wanted to fight.
Reluctant warriors.
I think it was the tallest matchup in Major League pugilist history. Cut and a miss. He struck him out. Painted on 97. Well, honestly, I don't know what Starlin's going to do with that pitch anyway.
RBI Baseball is back with all 30 MLB teams and players from the 2014 season. Get the retro 2-button style baseball game you've been missing. Visit RBIGame.com for more details and download today on your console and mobile device. Can't read that. It doesn't mean anything. 2-button. I don't know what that means, but apparently it's attractive, right? People want the 2-button.
The what? Let me look at
Got a
this.
stolen base attempt down there.
Rizzo is out. He was looking at home plate.
Busted hit and run, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Go 2-6 on the caught stealing.
Somebody missed it. Either Anthony thought it was on and it wasn't, or Valbuena didn't get it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know what the 2-button style thing means. I know what it means with a sport.
Yeah, nice blazer.
Yeah, sport coat, but not with tabletop baseball.
Anthony was asking Coughlin. It was on, right?
There's the 3-button. And Valbuena takes his second consecutive walk. Here's Castillo. Did I say 1914? Jack Brickhouse? I said 40, right? That's what I meant.
I heard what you meant. Yeah, I think you might have said 14.
I meant 40. I expect our viewers to read my mind. A and B going back to the old system. All you need is 2 buttons. All right, so it's some sort of old video gaming system. Okay. A controller.
Okay, I like that. Simple is better. 5 days until the trade deadline. What will the Cardinals do? Hold their cards? And if their underperforming players start to hit, they should be okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think the question is, where do you add? You're not going to add a first baseman. You're not going to add a catcher. You're paying Johnny Peralta a ton. Same at third, maybe second, but
Colton Wong has started swinging pretty well.
We mentioned they've got a plethora of outfielders.
Well, they pitch really well, but maybe that would be the difference maker. Add an arm to the rotation. Michael Walker's on the disabled list. Amy Garcia is done for the year.
And Castillo starting to get locked in here. He's 2 for 2.
Yeah, this is very nice development. His swings of late. Batting average inching up.
Here's a pitch. It's a strike. Came up with 2 on his last time up. Tied the game with an opposite field shot. Base hit left field. Balbuena around third. Holiday's throw is off the mark and late. Ryan Sweeney's had a day. He's knocked in all 4 runs.
I bet you they don't pitch him away next time. Home run into the bleachers in left center. This time he goes to left field with a 2-seam fastball that's running away from him. Balbuena with a nice jump off second base. And to score the go-ahead run.
A good combo, hasn't it? Balbuena through Sweeney. The trio, we'll call it. Balbuena, Castillo, and Sweeney all have reached in the last 2 innings. Leading off the second, and with 2 outs here in the third. Cubs now out hitting St. Louis 6-5. Throwback uniform day on Sunday here on WGN. The Cubs will wear their 1978 roadies. Those are the baby blue with the white pinstripes. Be on WCIU. There's the 0-1. It's a strike. Cardinals wore similar color for their road uniforms in '78, so they're going to wear the same style of road uniform in '78, but in the gray. It's the pullover Cardinal uni instead of the baby blue. So I guess you would call theirs inspired by 1978.
In the manner of, in the mode of. Can't have two teams in powder blue running around out there.
Right.
Chase pitch, that off-speed pitch down in the dirt. Shearholz wouldn't bite. Nate's biggest problem this year, he's just been getting beat by fastballs. Last year, hit better than 300 on fastballs. This year, on 100 points lower.
Swing and a miss to end the inning, but the Cubs now lead this ball game 4-3 after 3. July 27th, WGN America debuts an exciting new dramatic series about the scientists working on the atomic bomb project in 1943, New Mexico. We've been having fun with some trivia regarding either that year or the state of New Mexico in terms of the Cubs and baseball. So here's another trivia question for you, JD.
All right, I'm ready.
Who led the Cubs in home runs in 1943?
Steve Ontiveros. No, he was yesterday's answer.
I gave you 3 choices yesterday, and it was a 4th choice. There are 4 names on the list. I will give you 2 of them. Bill Nicholson and Stan Hack.
So who led the Cubs in home runs?
1943.
And
there are 4 choices, but I figured it's too easy. You're so good. I'm only going to give you 2 possible choices.
So are the other 2 in play, or have you eliminated them?
Oh yeah. No, I have not eliminated anybody.
And the correct answer is
I will tell you the winning answer was 29 home runs.
Wasn't Lenny Marullo.
Second place Cub home run hitter in 1943 was a guy who hit 8. So
is Gabby Hartnett on that list?
No. So Bill Nicholson and Stan Hack.
How about Hack Wilson? Is he on that list?
No.
All right. Well, I'll go with Stan Hack then.
No, it's Bill Nicholson. Nicholson hit 29. Phil Cavaretta hit 8. Caught by Rizzo. Don't forget, Manhattan premieres on WGN America this Sunday, July 27th at 9 Eastern, 8 Central.
I read a good book years ago called Los Alamos about that. Really interesting stuff.
One out. Here's Tony Cruz. So our good friend Mike Shannon is in his 57th season with the Cardinals. Came up as a big league player in 1962 and Hall of Fame writer with the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Rick Hummel did a little Q&A with
the commissioner.
It is priceless. Shannon was asked, do you ever want to manage, and how would you have done? And he says, I'd have been good. If I was going to manage, I would manage the Cubs. This is a career Cardinal saying this. Because if you go to the World Series and win the World Series as a Cubs manager, you can retire the next year and be rewarded enough for the rest of your life. Then he goes on to talk about their philosophy.
So he's getting into some deep water.
Cruz swings and misses. They want strikeout pitchers and home run hitters, right? I want little rabbits that run around and just blow your mind. Then Rick asks Mike Shannon, if you were commissioner, what changes would you make? Quote, I'd start all games at midnight. I played better at midnight. Better yet, all games would start at 12 a.m. or 12 p.m. At 12 p.m. you can see the ball better in the daytime. At 12 a.m. it doesn't matter. I'm far ahead of everybody else at 12 a.m. Personally, it's going to better me. And if I'm the commissioner, I'm benefiting me.
So Mike thought he was going to be the rare player commissioner.
I love it. We'll be with you tomorrow at noon. We'll be with you at midnight the next day.
Split doubleheader.
All games at 12. Joe Kelly rounds out. Get up, baby, get up. 4-3 Cubs. at 3:05. The first 10,000 adults 21 and over get an Ernie Banks replica statue presented by Budweiser. For more information, visit Cubs.com. Mr. Cub, he's in Cooperstown this weekend. His fellow Hall of Famers for the big induction ceremony on Sunday. And we want to congratulate our colleague, Eric Nadel, longtime radio voice of the Texas Rangers. He gets the Ford C. Frick Award. Dan Roan will have live reports on the WGN News all weekend long. Curveball strike on Travis Wood. There's Mike Shannon along with John Rooney and a lot of cables in the background. Blue plug goes in here.
Man, yeah, it's quite an operation they got working there.
Wood powers one to deep left center. It's gone. A home run. Number 3 on the year for Wood. It's 5-3.
Reached on an error first time up. He's turned things around on the mound the last couple of innings, and now he puts one into the seats. What an impressive swing of the bat by Travis Wood. Third time he's gone deep this year. Hey! Joe Kelly came into the start having not allowed a home run this year. Now giving up a pair, one to Sweeney, just his second, and number 3 for Travis Wood.
9th of his career. Cubs lead by 2. Coghlan hits one down the left field line. Got a run, Chris. Coghlan thought it was foul, and he didn't run.
Yeah, Nate hit one down that direction earlier in the ballgame too that I thought was going to drift out of play. But the way that wind's blowing it, holding that ball up as a left-handed hitter, when you hit it down the line like that with that slight spin, you just assume it's going to drift out of play. You can't afford to do that.
You got to run. They'll tell you it's foul and out of play. Goes Alcantara with 1 out. He takes a strike. Also, congrats, Roger Angel, senior editor from the New Yorker. Feature-length writer. His piece over the winter by Barry Bloom and on MLB.com about Roger Angel winning the J.G. Taylor Spink Award. So he's the baseball writer being honored in Cooperstown. So Roger Angel, 93 years old. Again, contributing to the New Yorker in 1944. Alcantara grounds out.
Mark Ellis very sure-handed out there at second base. He's only made 1 error this year. He doesn't play every day. He's just shy of 190 chances. 1 error committed.
195, but off the plate inside for a ball. Popped up, and it's Carpenter, continues to move his feet, and he makes the catch. Of Greater Chicago, Northwest Indiana, this Monday, July 28th. Girl Scouts of all ages and their families who purchase specially priced tickets through the Cubs special events page get this commemorative patch. Tickets and details only available through Cubs.com/special events. Travis Wood giving his team some insurance with a home run. A 1-1 on Carpenter, who's already 2 for 2. Outside, 2-1.
Travis has not had many clean innings of late, but he's retired 7 in a row now.
Big turnaround from the first 2 innings. That's deep to right, way back, gone. Carpenter, 3 for 3, his 6th of the year.
First one he's hit off of a left-handed pitcher. In terms of batting average, he's been really good against lefties. Pretty much the same left or right, but he hasn't slugged against lefties, and that's fairly typical. This time he's able to whack one into the seats, though. You got a 1-run game, away, and then a fastball middle in. It just speaks to how quick he is.
Peralta, strike 1. Happy 25th birthday, Nicole Marie. Watching and rooting on the Cubs today. Two strikes.
Early in the year, Peralta wasn't hitting for much average at all, but he was hitting the ball out of the ballpark. Just up to 255 now. He's gone deep 14 times. And a nice pickup for St. Louis. They signed him to a 4-year, $53 million deal in the offseason.
swing and a miss. He struck him out.
He showed up a little late.
K per inning for Travis Wood.
Wood does not light up the radar gun, but he's sneaky.
Holliday's only connected 8 times. Career high 36 home runs back in 07. That was with the Rockies. He's been good for 22 to 28 or so as a Cardinal and most of his full seasons.
Double dip.
Swing and a miss, 2-2. Slugging numbers way down this year. And under 500 the last 3 years, but up in the 490s each of the last 2 seasons, right around 400 currently.
Yeah, rolling over on a lot of balls, hitting the ball on the ground a lot more frequently. I mean, he's always been a guy who hits the ball on the line, hits it on the ground, but he's still going to drive the ball out of the ballpark. And this year, not been able to do that. Hasn't been able to drive the ball, stay through the middle of the diamond, get it airborne as frequently. Another little guy like Dennis the Menace. All right, so he just had him leaning on that pitch on the outside corner. He was called out looking at a fastball down and away last time. Typically they try to pitch him in, and that's Wood's strength, that cutter in. Whatever Castillo wanted, Wood shook him off, not once but twice.
High fly deep to left. We're tied. His 9th. Now that one he got up into the wind.
Yeah. Well, and probably should have went with Castillo's choice. Again, Travis would tell you, any pitcher would tell you, it's not necessarily about the selection, but the execution of the pitch. First time he's gone deep off a lefty this year. He only went deep off a lefty once last year. That's that cutter or slider that just settles into the happy zone for the hitter. You either got to get it in, or backdoor it. And that one stayed out over the plate.
Travis was trying to coax that one to stay on the warning track. 5-5. This is probably it for Wood, unless they want to. Well, he's got to get through this 5th inning, but this has got to be his final inning. With his pitch count now up over 110. Adams gets under one. Should be no problem for Scherholtz. Got the sunglasses on. It's very bright sky, even though the sun not necessarily an issue, but you've got a lot of white clouds above. See, I could see Travis really trying to talk his manager into letting him come back out for the 6th. And if he can get Craig on 1 or 2 pitches, maybe. But those first 2 innings are really going to limit him. Craig high in the air to left. In the corner, Coghlan will get this one. Carpenter and Holiday connect. It's 5-5.
They're tied at 5 as we head to the bottom of the 5th. I guess you could say Carpenter has handled Wood, but that would be a stupid thing to say. 3 for 3 with a solo home run. Holiday, first home run off a lefty this year. Sweeney has gone deep, as has Travis Wood. Start something special with great leases and low financing on a new Honda. Visit shophonda.com or visit your local Honda dealer.
5-5.
Kelly has not been particularly sharp this afternoon. Fastball command has been very wobbly.
Broken bat roller picked up by Ellis. A stretch. Castro safe with an infield hit.
Shattered bat, but Castro gets a knock out of it. Lunging for the bag, able to beat it. I don't know if that's not an easier play for Peralta. Seems to me like he'd have a better angle, better position to get more on the throw.
He's 1 for 3. By the way, Travis Wood threw 5 innings, 113 pitches, already a season high, twice with 112. Mike Malinsky got hit by the handle, obviously inadvertent on Castro's part. Not much of the bat left. Right there, look out. Tough gig.
Well, if you're going to pick an end of the bat to get hit with, that would be the one.
Always the optimist, Jim DeShays.
It's a song I'd rather be a hammer than the nail, and I'd rather get hit with the handle than the barrel.
Both times Valbuena taking a walk and later scoring. left-hander Randy Choate.
Somebody else going to start loosening as well.
Seth Maness. One, two.
Choate, the veteran lefty specialist, the loogie. Maness is their guy when they're looking for ground ball.
He's the ground ball guy. Field pop actually just into the outfield now. Wynn pushing it back. Peralta's got it. Cubs baseball is brought to you by Budweiser, the official beer of Major League Baseball. Great times are waiting. Grab some buds. Be out the Budweiser patio on the bleachers on Tuesday night against the Colorado Rockies. Right above where Joe Kelly's face was.
I hope somebody hits us a home run.
We will not be wearing red. But it looks nice in the picture. Red and blue.
Over in Castro's ear after the pop-up. I think he was telling him, hey, you got to go a little further on that pop-up like that. You see an infielder retreating backpedaling the way he was. Give yourself a chance to get into second base if that ball is misplayed out there.
Curve strike. Out of reaches of the zone that time. Got it. Day already for that guy. Ryan Sweeney's got a homer, a single, and 4 RBIs. Kelly went to University of California at Riverside. 3rd round pick back in 2009. Quite the free spirit. Likes to be a prankster when he's not pitching. Said he got kicked out of class a lot. Wasn't a great student.
Class clown type.
Yeah. Over but low. Pitch. He got him. On the curve for strike 3.
And now for the speed replay brought to you by Xfinity. Ryan Sweeney having a nice day. 3-run jacket to the seats in left. RBI single between third and short. Valbuena races home. Xfinity, your home for the most live sports. Big day for Ryan Sweeney. because of it, they're going to make a pitching change as he comes up to hit.
Randy Choate in a 5-5 tie. Choate to Sweeney. Randy Choate usually strands inherited runners. Left-handed hitters 4 for 48 against him. And he hasn't given up a run since June 2nd. Now you know why Mike Matheny brought him in.
Yeah, well, he usually doesn't face many hitters.
Curve strike.
Pitched 38 times, but only 24 2/3 innings. Well, he gets paid to get left-handed hitters out, and he's been very effective at doing that for a long time now. First came to the big leagues with the Yankees back in 2000.
Another breaking ball misses low and outside.
Soft tosser. He'll average about 85 miles an hour with his fastball.
Instead of curve in the mid-70s, it's actually a slider.
It's kind of a slurvy, sweeping breaking ball.
There it is again, and Sweeney stays alive.
Actually, lefty's hitting .083 against him. Right-handed batter's .395. So they will limit his exposure to the right-handed hitters when they can.
Castro the runner at first, and Choate will throw over. Ground ball to Ellis to end the inning. 5 in the books, 5 runs for each team.
Seventh inning stretch brought to you by Budweiser, the official beer of Major League Baseball. Great times are waiting. Grab some Buds. There's Pat Brickhouse. We'll change up. We'll be along to sing the stretch here in just a wee bit.
We look forward to that. We're now in the 6th inning. Starters are done. It's Wesley Wright facing John Jay.
Wesley worked in yesterday's ball game, also worked in game 1 of the series with the Padres. Allowed 4 hits and a run in that crazy 9-run 6 for the Pods yesterday. Overall, he's 0-1 with a 2.51 earned run average. See if he can solve John Jay, who's just been punishing left-handed pitching this year. Nope.
Base hit to start the inning. Other baseball news, Dan Uggla has been brought up by the Giants. Recently cut by the Braves. Very brief stint at AAA. I don't even know if let's see, 9 plate appearances with Fresno for Uggla. Ray Adrianza and Marcos Scutaro go to the DL.
Injuries created opportunity, and Uggla, who, well, things have gotten really ugly for him in Atlanta, gets new life. Maybe change of scenery will help out.
See, Scutaro just came off the DL a couple of weeks ago.
Five runs, but 2 earned charged to Travis Wood in his 5 innings. 7 hits, a walk, 5 strikeouts.
Yeah, I can't get the win, so it'll be 7 straight winless starts. It leaves in a tie ball game. Ellis bunts. Wright will fire to second. Out there. There was a hesitation by Jay because he wasn't sure if Wright was going to catch the bunt. Fortunately, Castro able to keep his toe on the bag.
So perhaps Wesley Wright has a little more time than he realized. Because the base runner Ellis does have to wait, or Jay, excuse me. Ooh. A little bit surprised Mike Matheny's not taking a look at that one. Sails a little bit on Wright. Castro airborne. Looks like he got it. Yeah.
Pitch to Cruz. It's away from Castillo, so there you go with the bunt. And the same difference. It's Ellis at second instead of Jay.
It should be a wild pitch. It looked like Ellis was a little bluff as Wright was holding the ball and staring him down, and I think maybe that kind of caused Wesley to flinch a little bit. Got out of sync with his delivery.
Two and 0. Ground ball to third. As Cruz shattered his bat. Valbuena will throw him out. 2 away. Every Sunday is Kids Retro Toy Sunday at Wrigley Field. This Sunday, July 27th at 1:20, the Cubs host the Cards. First 5,000 kids 13 and under get a Cubs Magic Ball. It's a Magic Baseball presented by Gonella. Then after the game, the first 1,000 kids 13 and younger can run the bases. For more info or to purchase seats, go to Cubs.com. Oscar Taveras is going to pinch hit. Or choked.
Bench for Mike Matheny today comprised of 4 left-handed bats, 1 right-handed hitter. Matheny wanting to save his righty Borges, maybe for a possible pinch run situation later in the ball game. Sends one of his lefties up there, and it's the rookie Taveras. Their top hitting prospect, off to a little bit of a slow start here at the big league level.
In the last 2 years, according to Baseball America, number 1 on the Cardinals list. Swing and a miss. Well, in terms of just, respected veterans, guys who just go about their business, create no waves. Wesley Wright has been that guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just has fit right in.
Yeah, easy to get along with. Wesley Wright, good solid pro.
Hit hard and through, and the Cardinals will retake the lead. And wild pitch coming back to haunt Wright as Ellis scores. The rookie Taveras comes through.
Just kept the hands back long enough. Like that front side was starting to leak a little bit. Hands stay back and hit that ball pretty hard.
Throw to first. Taveras does not have a stolen base attempt at this level. Didn't run a ton in the minor leagues.
No, just 1 steal, 1 caught this year. 35 steals, 16 times caught in his career. Started at the age of 17 back in 2009.
Kevin Segrist recently activated off the DL. Hard throwing lefty. Basically, at this point, I don't think Ricky can really match up the rest of the game. Not even certain James Russell is available to pitch. Be all right-handers after Wesley Wright. This is kind of the bind the Cubs are in. They're using a lot of bullpen recently. Bounced foul. Brandon Hyde on the right, Cubs bench coach. pitch. He struck him out. The inning is over. But the Cardinals have the lead once again. It's 6-5. Upcoming schedule: Shelby Miller, Jake Arrieta late in the afternoon tomorrow, and then we're on the U on Sunday, 1 o'clock, for the leadoff man Adam Wainwright and Kyle Hendricks. Ford, go further in any one of Ford's many fuel-efficient vehicles. Check out America's freshest lineup at your local Ford store or at localfordstores.com. Got the chess match between these two managers beginning a little earlier than normal. Segrist, the hard-throwing lefty, comes in, and Ricky Renteria goes with Emilio Bonifacio for Nate Scherholz.
Segrist's not a finesse left-hander by any means. He's a power arm, mid-90s fastball. He'll throw a ton of them. He'll mix in the occasional slider and change.
Bonifacio will hit and then likely stay in and play center and move Sweeney over to right. At the plate inside. Justin Ruggiano is on deck.
Nate struck out in his first 2 at-bats, clearly frustrating what has been a very frustrating season for him. Down a run. Renteria is going to push all the buttons he can here.
And a base hit slapped the other way on the ground. By the way, they have charged Wellington Castillo with a passed ball. No wild pitch on right. So that makes that go-ahead run unearned.
It seems like a wild pitch to me.
I would agree with you. It's a real tough pass ball.
That's a wild pitch.
That's a long way to reach for a fastball. That was a fastball, wasn't it? Yeah. Here's Ruggiano. He had been kind of day-to-day with a mild strain of his groin muscle. Suffered running the bases a few nights ago against the Padres, but well enough to pinch hit. Segrist just missed 2 months with a strained left forearm. This is his first big league appearance since May the 23rd. It's Justin Grimm in the Cubs bullpen. 2 strikes to Ruggiano. Seager's pitching with a lead. He usually comes in around the 7th or the 8th. Today it's in the 6th.
Well, they have a third left-hander out there, Sam Freeman, and he's been throwing the ball very well. Seager's just coming off the DL, so they may have reversed those roles temporarily. Cardinals bullpen with a 3.48 ERA, middle of the pack in the National League.
So this game today, JD, I think is a good game to talk about the bullpen usage. I will make my point in a moment, or at least ask the question. Foul back. Not that you're going to bring your closer into the game in the 6th inning, but this game today, I mean, this game basically is going to be decided here in middle relief. Probably. So could you make a case, and I guess Matheny benefits a little bit today from Seagrist coming off the DL because, as I said, he's using him earlier than he might normally. So you kind of have an 8th inning guy pitching here in the 6th.
Yeah,
so would you consider as a
what
manager
he's been doing with his bullpen of late, but
moving, you know, if you're Ricky Renteria, maybe moving one of your later inning guys up an inning just keep this game
to react to a situation, depending on what part of the lineup is coming up, or if there's a dangerous guy on base and a runner in scoring position with a dangerous hitter up. I'm all in favor of managing outside the box in terms of bullpen usage. I know it does present some problems because players get used to being in a certain role and being used at a certain point in the game, and you might get some pushback if you start to use them differently.
Well, I think, the one benefit, if we're going to just talk pure, selfish stats, you tell you when you're reliever, you can get a win. Go get a win. 5-5 tie or 6-5, whatever. Hold'em will get a couple runs as Ruggiano strikes out. While we have a moment, let's step aside and see what's coming up on WGN. Len and JD from beautiful Wrigley Field. Game 1 of 3 this weekend. Coughlin, it's a high pop up into shallow left, and it'll be Holiday for the out.
And you talk about bullpen usage, and how about bench usage? We noted Bonifacio hitting for the Shearholtz here in the 6th. That's kind of more of a late game move than you normally would see. The old adage is the players have the game through the first 6 innings and the managers take over in the 7th. But why not make those moves a little bit earlier? You have to be careful how you use your resources in case you get into a tie game, go into extra innings. You don't want to run out of players. But with most modern bullpens being so good at shutting you down in the 8th and 9th, why not make those plays a little bit earlier to try to get those platoon advantage at bats?
And Bonifacio is usually a pretty safe bet because he is a switch hitter and versatile defensively.
And that's the advantage you have with having guys like Bonifacio and Alcantara on your roster. Whether they're on the bench or in the game to begin with, you can move them all over the field.
Well, that's the other.
It's made Oakland so good, all the flexibility they have.
That's the thing you bring up that is interesting to think about. We'll have to get into it later. As Adams will retire Alcantara. Seagrist back from the DL with a scoreless inning. WGN Cubs fan cam. Good Times by Chic with our WGN Cubs fan cam. 6-5 the Cardinals lead as we get into the 7th inning. It is right-hander Justin Grimm on the mound, and Johnny Peralta with a ground ball in the hole. Throw to first is going to be late. Pat Brickhouse is with us in the booth. She will conduct the 7th inning stretch. So great to have you here today.
My pleasure, I assure you.
And Jack Brickhouse bobblehead day, and
yes.
I love it that you can hear the home run call, the iconic call of Ernie Banks' 500th home run. I
couldn't be more pleased. They did an absolutely incredible job.
Great job with the first pitch. In fact, the guy on the mound caught that first pitch. Justin Grimm.
Well, I did it once before we went into the playoffs in '98
in
San Francisco. And I kept creeping a little closer because I know I'm 100 pounds dripping wet that it's not going to go very far.
Nothing like this ballpark.
Oh,
huge
it's
crowd.
One of a kind.
Cardinals and Cubs.
Jack's very favorite rivalry, with the St. Louis Cardinals, of course.
You remember the first time you walked into this ballpark?
Memories, it's totally different than with the new configuration of, wasn't that neat? All the pictures and everything. It's incredible. People do remember this man, and as they well should. No one's going to have his record of over 5,000 games right here at Wrigley Field and 40 years of broadcasting the Cubs.
1-2 on Matt Holliday. There's Jack with the babe.
Oh my goodness.
How about that?
I'm seeing it on the screen.
Back in the late 1940s at Comiskey Park.
Broadcast.
He cleaned up nice, didn't he?
You're wonderful.
Jack or the babe?
Both.
40 years with the Cubs and 27 in tandem. He broadcasts the South Side.
Yeah, I mean, the voice of baseball here in Chicago, no question about it. 2-2 the count on Holliday. And Lowell for a ball. It's 3-2. So tell us about Jack, the man, out of the broadcast booth. Everybody felt like they knew him, listening to him every day.
Well, I couldn't believe when people were telling me what a great man he was when we got together in the late 70s. No one could be that sweet, kind, considerate. He was.
Swing and a miss, runner goes, and Peralta will be safe.
And he never lost his sense of humility, which is one of the things people admire him in.
We had, a year or two ago, we played the leadoff man from basically the final broadcast he did as a full-time broadcaster with the Cubs, and all of his colleagues. I mean, it was an emotional day, but it was such a happy day. Everybody
I remember we were on that deck that the fans wouldn't let him leave. I do recall vividly.
Here's Adams with one out. Come on, JD, we got to get one of those.
Yeah, where's our Channel 9 Blazers?
Oh, they don't have them anymore, do they? I've never seen them. They had a requirement in those days.
Well,
you know, you had to dress up, not wear a T-shirt, but you had to wear the jacket. That isn't some Hall of Fame. I get that jacket, too. And that was a requirement in those days. You know, he was the first voice on WGN television. A lot of people don't realize when CLTV started, they made him the first voice on that, too.
A pioneer in a lot of ways. There he is with the Teddy Ball game.
Oh, yeah.
A 1-1. Adams a little late on a fastball. 5,000th telecast on WGN.
Over 5,000. You know, but no one's. Oh, yes, and that's when they honored him. And Jane Byrne was mayor, and there was Thompson as the governor.
79, that shot. And he struck him out. 2 away. Great stuff. There goes number 5,000.
Yeah, that was Jane Byrne honored him on the field.
Big crowd here at the ballpark.
Oh, yes.
Well, Pat, thanks for being with us today. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to your rendition of the 7th inning stretch coming up.
Well, we'll try.
That's Pat Brickhouse. As Alan Craig here with 2 outs. Runner at second. It's a pitch low for a ball. Back-to-back Ks for Grimm after the infield hit by Peralta.
Just throwing that fastball right by Matt Adams. Been a rough go lately for Justin Grimm. A good one here today. Something to build on, perhaps.
2-0.
Speaking of rough go, Alan Craig, man, he's such a good hitter, but he's having a horrendous year. Over 3 today. Last year with runners in scoring position, otherworldly 454. You know there was no way he was going to be able to keep that up.
Yeah, he seemed automatic in this situation in 2013, and about half the time he was. Secondary lead by Peralta. It's 3-0. John Jay on deck. Cardinals retook the lead with an unearned run in the 6th off Wesley Wright. And he walked him. 2 on. We'll bring out Chris Bosio with John Jay coming up. So JD, just to finish your thought about kind of thinking outside the box. You mentioned Bonifacio, and such a versatile guy. We're talking between innings about the baseball equivalent of the 6th man. I wonder if that sort of super utility guy within a game will ever be developed, in that, you know, a guy like Bonifacio almost plays every day, but you can plop him in as a runner, a defender, or a pinch hitter kind of in any spot, and you know he can finish the game.
Yeah, and there's always that question for a manager too. Does a guy have more value for me starting the game or coming off the bench where I can use him in a specific situation? But again, the value that he has, even if you start him in one position, you can move him around comfortably, and he's not going to hurt you. You know, he's good at second base, he's good in center field, he's fine at third base. He's frankly, he's a guy I'd assume the Cubs are getting a lot of phone calls on, because you know he's a nice guy, a nice piece to add to a team that's looking to make a run.
So Jay with 2 hits Both off lefties, Wood and Wright, now facing the right-hander Grimm. 2 down, 2 on, and inside for a ball. 93 on the fastball from Grimm.
Reverse splits really jump out at you.
And a lot of great tweets. People really enjoying all the old photos and film and video of Jack Brickhouse, and our chat with Pat, bringing back a lot of memories. Two and one. Peralta with an infield hit to start the inning. Later stole a base. With 2 outs, Craig walked. Even a look at the runner this time. And he missed again. 3-1.
Seen that pitch called the strike earlier today. Breaking ball doesn't catch the bottom of the zone. It's on the plate. Borderline. Could have been.
Walensky back there today.
Tough assignment. This has been a long game. Tough to be that home plate umpire on a day like today.
Fly ball left field. Coghlan is there, and it's time now for the 7th inning stretch with Pat Brickhouse, brought to you by Budweiser.
To the ball game, Pat Brickhouse.
Let's hear it for the 40 years of Cubs broadcasting, Mr. Jack Brickhouse. A 1, a 2, a 3. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if I ever get back. So it's root for the Cubs. If they don't win, it's a shame. It's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. Let's get some runs for Mr. Hey Hey.
Brickhouse with us. She can sing.
Yeah, very nice.
Segrist continues here in the bottom of the 7th with his team leading. Ball 1 on Rizzo. Largest crowd of the season to date, and we might top it again tomorrow. 41,534. Rizzo cranks one to deep right, but way foul. On to Sheffield. Look out below. All-star Pat Neshek, kind of the right-handed version of Randy Choate. Some veteran funk. One's a righty, one's a lefty.
Performing tonight, veteran funk. I'll be on at about 9. Here goes Rizzo on another hitter's count.
Three and two. Imagine it's just Rizzo and Dunn for Segrist coming off the DL. So Neshek against Castro, but we have Luis Valbuena coming up as well as Rizzo gets hit by that pitch. It was a breaking ball.
Breaking ball that Segrist just doesn't finish. Squirts on him. Rizzo takes it off the back of the arm. Cubs have a leadoff man on here in the 7th.
Matheny has not shown an indication that he's going to come and make a change. Inside on a fastball. What happened? Must have hit Castro. That ball ended up over third, but it was foul.
Front foot.
Six-5 St. Louis here in the 7th. A man on, nobody out. And the 1-1 is a strike. 1-2.
Had been working in, then he shoots that fastball over the outside part of the plate. Segrist has been really tough on right-handed hitters. That helps to explain why Matheny stays with him. Burns off the outside edge at 93. Righty's hitting $178 against him with very little power.
Now Buena on deck, 2-2. And the Cubs cleanup man. Fouled upstairs. Another 2-2, and this time he chased one. One away.
In, out, up, down. I don't think that's where Segrist wanted to throw that ball, but he got away with it. Astro done a much better job this year in terms of not chasing those pitches way out of the zone. Got a little giddy there, though.
The East Coast games will be underway shortly. Boston at Tampa Bay. The Rays, the hottest team in baseball here as of late. David Price.
Look at that David Price big Poppy thing going on again.
Yeah, although I don't know if Poppy's playing. High fly ball deep to center. Way back and gone! And the Cubs lead by a run on a 2-run homer by Valbuena.
Back and forth we go. Valbuena with a 3-run blast a couple of days ago. This time he goes straightaway center field off the left-hander.
So the Cubs have the lead 7-6. And keep coming back. Pitching change. We will be back. To right. Peter Borges now in center as part of a double switch. At Neshek. He is a new Cardinal pitcher. The Cubs have the lead. First time All-Star. Pat Neshek.
And there are the numbers to support his case. Glittering 0.68 ERA, 45 appearances, 132 batting average against, just 18 hits in 40 innings of work.
Strike called on Castillo. 2-run homer by Balbuena. He has now knocked in 6 over his last 3 games. David Ortiz is in the Boston lineup tonight against David Price. Dealing with a back issue. Swing and a miss. 0-2 on Castillo.
Yeah, there's been war of words between those guys and more over the last couple of seasons, and after the last one earlier this year, Poppy said something to the effect of, if he comes inside on me again, we're going to have a big problem. Got to come inside on Big Poppy. David Price should take that as a challenge. Here you go, pal.
He has won his last 5 starts with an 0.90 ERA.
It's quite good.
He's won 7 straight. 1-2, swing and a miss. 2 away.
Not a hard thrower, but he gets a lot of swings and misses. Strikeout rate just under 28%. That's well above league average. He doesn't walk many. Talk a lot about tilt on a slider. Well, with that arm angle, he's not going to get any tilt on his slider. He's not going to get any downward action on it.
Slings it in there on Sweeney.
How about that finish?
Yeah.
The right hand. Like he's twirling his 6-shooter and getting ready to put it back in his holster.
Not messing around. 6 pitches, 5 strikes. A roller to Ellis. And the inning is over, but a 2-run go-ahead shot by Luis Balbuena off the left-hander's Segras. And yeah, good times. Cubs lead 7-6. Each inning, and neither team has scored when the other team has. How strange is that?
That is a line score oddity.
Buena's 2-run homer making it 7-6.
Isn't enough? That's the question. Here comes Neil Ramirez. He's done his part this year with an ERA right at 1 now. With 32 appearances. He's been awfully tough to hit. 15 hits and 27 innings of work. Better than 3 strikeouts for every walk.
Colton Wong will hit for Mark Ellis and then stay in and play second.
Gotta be careful here. This guy's been hitting for power of late.
He's got 5 since coming back from the DL on July 6th. Had a left shoulder contusion. National League Rookie of the Month for May. Two rookies on the roster, Wong and Taveras. Check that Freeman, the reliever, is also a rookie. 2 balls and a strike. Leadoff single for Wong.
Sixth time in 8 innings that the Cardinals have had the leadoff man reach.
Cruz with a hit in 3 tries and caught stealing. Broken hit and run in the second.
Wong can run. He's stolen 12 bases, been caught twice.
Rookie Ramirez has a sign. Borges on deck. Low again. 2-0. Here comes Chris Bosio. Cubs infield on the mound with a pitching coach.
Cubs bullpen allowed 8 runs in the ball game yesterday. Struggled the day before as well as that light hitting Padre club, or 21 runs in 2 days.
Got a nice note from Michael Casey watching us from a naval base in Japan, Yokosuka. Japan.
Would not be surprised to see Wong run at some point in this at bat. I'd be a little bit surprised to see him go here on 2-0.
Two and one.
Fastball borderline down.
You got a break there. We'll gladly take it. Cruz used to be a third baseman. Moved back behind the plate in 2008, the year after the Cardinals took him in the 26th round out of Palm Beach Community College. The catcher on their roster is George Kataris, who was with the Cubs in spring training. Wong runs. The pitch is inside.
Stay with it.
Will he save? Did he overslide the bag? That's the question. Contra did not seem to indicate that Wong did, but Ricky's going to come out just in case.
It looked to me like he came off the base, but I don't think Alcantara had the tag on him when he did. Sweep tag, and there goes Wong. And if he did come off, it looked like he got back to the corner before the tag was applied.
It's hard to see if his finger's actually off the base. Ricky's going to challenge. This probably is her best look.
Save, 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 save. Still can't tell if he got back. Everything I've seen so far confirms that he was safe.
I guess worth a shot here in the late innings.
Unless you got dinner reservations.
Well, that's kind of the other the other strategic question with replay review is at what point of a ball game, if you haven't used it, do you decide to use it? I think this is a good time, because we're after the 6th inning. Even if Ricky loses his challenge, he can still suggest that they review something later. Obviously, it would be a big out. It's a tying run.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if Major League Baseball going forward will tweak that a little bit, where you won't have that option.
So if he loses,
you lose,
that's
it. That's it. We're not going to look at it anymore.
Wong went over to first to talk to the coach over there, Chris Maloney. But again, we did not see anything conclusive that would overturn the original call.
So Grimm has been used. Wright's been used. Russell probably not available. Schlitter probably not available. Call confirmed. Mike Matheny down a run, wants to make sure he gets this man to third base with less than 2 outs, but Cruz in a hitter's count, so you don't necessarily want him sacrificing his approach at the plate here. He's got a hitter's count and then 2 more chances to drive in that run. Peter Borges, who came in the double switch, is on deck.
Meantime, a 3-1 count, make it 3-2 on Cruz.
A little extra pressure on Wellington Castillo here. Every now and then would snap off a nasty breaking ball. It'd be tough to keep in front of you. Back-to-back fastballs after falling behind 3-1. A bit hesitant to throw 3 in a row. The guy's got a much better chance of timing you up if you keep pumping one in there one after another. Just can hit a real good spot with it.
Another 3-2 and a ground ball to short. Wong caught up now. Let's see what Cruz does. Cruz is going to take off for second. So the benefit here is the Cardinals lose a little speed at second. But you'd rather get Wong without letting Cruz get into scoring position.
Poorly executed rundown, and that's been a problem for the Cubs the last couple seasons. Too many throws, allowing those base runners to stay alive too long and allow that back runner to move up. Base running mistake initially by Wong, but was able to stay in that rundown long enough.
So 6-5-4.
The Castro's got to make a more aggressive move at Wong initially, get him on the move, and then get that ball to third base in a hurry and then run him back hard to second.
Castillo tried to knock it down. It went straight up in the air, and that's a wild pitch. And now the tying run at third with only 1 out.
Well, with an assist to Wong. His ability to stay in the rundown allows Cruz to move up. There's that breaking ball I was talking about that he snaps off in the dirt that can be awfully hard for a catcher to contain. And we've had everything in this game. Errors, wild pitches that should have been pass balls, home runs.
Let's go back one more time to the grounder to short. Right here, JD, I'm wondering if Castro could have taken a little more direct route right at Wong, who
he has to kind of get after him much more aggressively, force Wong to go hard towards third base, and get the ball to Valbuena and run him back to second.
Yeah, you want that runner back towards second to keep the back runner from even thinking about it.
Yeah, you ought to just give it up in a hurry to Valbuena and let him just charge at Wong and run him back to second base.
Infield in, and it's 2-0. Peter Borges.
Get a guy in a rundown like that. Getting the out isn't enough. You have to get the out in an efficient manner to keep that back runner out of scoring position.
Borges born in nearby Park Ridge, Illinois. Parents are from here. He was pretty young when the family moved to Arizona. Popped up. Behind the plate, Castillo's got room. A huge second out. Now, Ramirez has to face Carpenter with 2 away.
Probably their toughest guy in this situation. Castillo finds that ball, knows it's going to work its way back towards the playing field. Keeps his feet moving. He had plenty of support in behind him. Valbuena and Rizzo entering the picture.
Big day for Carpenter. Castillo saying, "Now, I'm going to throw a fastball. Make sure I can catch it."
usually difficult to defend putting the go-ahead run on base, and that's what Carpenter would be. Given that they're a little bit short out there in the bullpen, if you figure that your best chance of maintaining the lead is by getting after Peralta as opposed to Carpenter, it would be an understandable move. I'm not saying it's the move. If they chose to pitch carefully to Carpenter or just to put him on, I would understand it. Again, it's kind of goes against the book putting the go-ahead run on base.
Ramirez with a 1-1. Late swing by Carpenter. 1-2.
Handles velocity.
Let this count lull you to sleep.
Yeah, well, he handles velocity. He stays back. He's got such quick hands.
One and two. Tying run 90 feet away. 2 down in the 8th. Here it comes.
Carpenter not willing to sell out on a fastball there. That one at 95 over the heart of the plate, but again, he doesn't want to get fooled by an off speed or a breaker. The red shirts are up, the blue shirts are up.
Well, he pulled that ball right out of Castillo's glove.
Yeah, when a guy continues to fight off fastballs like that, and he's behind him, it's very difficult as a pitcher and a catcher to say, all right, let's try a breaking ball here. But it's clearly he's in, stay back and don't get fooled mode.
Ramirez strikes out Carpenter. Cardinals cannot get the tying run home. It's still 7-6. Neil Ramirez got through it without allowing a run, and the Cubs maintain their lead.
What a pitch he made to finish off Carpenter. Fighting off all those fastballs, and he just threw one a little bit further off at 94. And got the swing and miss.
Neshek against Bonifacio. Long remains in the ball game at second. Ooh, 68 miles an hour on that changeup. That got the same reaction that an Aroldis Chapman 102 mile an hour fastball would have gotten from this crowd at Wrigley. Everybody went, ooh. A big piece of the home plate umpire.
And then 91. So that's a huge separation between the fastball and the changeup.
One and two. Hector Rondon will get the ninth. And that changeup.
It's like he's throwing a styrofoam ball up there.
A wiffle ball.
I mean, it's hard to throw a ball that slow and keep it on. You know, it's one thing to flip a big, slow, loopy curveball up there. But straight changeup. Don't see that very often.
John Baker to pinch hit for Ramirez. There's Rondon. Neshek is from the Midwest. He was born in Madison, Wisconsin. Went to high school in Minnesota, and then attended Butler University. Has a similar vibe and kind of the way he works to Jason Mott.
He's back.
Not the wind up there, but yeah, just kind of. Mott really actually storms off the mound, grabs the ball. A lot of walking around between pitches, kind of like Neshek does. Yeah, Mott back after Tommy John surgery last year.
So just for comparison, the average changeup velocity in the big leagues is 83. He's throwing his at 68,
69.
Yeah.
Count is full. Coughlin will hit next. 2-3-4 for the Cardinals in the ninth against Rondon.
Rondon would not complain if the Cubs gave him another run to work with.
Hard, but Peralta picks it up, spins, and throws to first. Coughlin looking for a salvage here. He's 0 for 4. Blue Jays striking early. 3 runs in the top of the first in support of Mark Burley. They're at the stadium in the Bronx. Jose Bautista with a 3-run homer off Hiroki Kuroda. It was on a 3-0 pitch. His 19th. Ground ball into center. Ishak not happy with himself. He thought he should have had it. Mike Matheny coming out, and he's going to make a change as we look at some footage from earlier today in Cooperstown. Tom Ricketts, the Cubs chairman. Greg Maddux along with Ernie Banks. We had a still shot earlier. What a big weekend. Jim Hendry, Cubs former general manager, and we'll have big special coming up tomorrow at 5:30. Chicago's Call to the Hall here on WGN. We'll be back. Put together some really good numbers. He has kept the ball in the ballpark in limited action, just over 20 innings.
He's done a nice job for the Cardinals. Former 32nd round draft pick, 2008.
Coughlin at first, 2 outs. Cubs lead by a run here in the 8th. Alcantara now batting right-handed. Bunt single in the first inning, and then grounded out twice and popped out.
Well, you got Rizzo on deck. Should Alcantara reach, so Freeman makes sense for that reason. Plus to help shut down the running game. Tougher for Coughlin to get a jump off the lefty Freeman and off the funky righty Neshek. 5'11", $165, kind of a wiry guy is Freeman. Works from the third base side of the rubber.
Fastball change slider.
There's a little double pump move he does when he comes set. See if some umpires would interpret that as a balk. He does it again here. He did it last time. there and drops his hands.
That was the change in the dirt. 2-1.
You can get a look at it here. One and then two. Guess if he does it every time and he never does come to a full stop the first time, he's okay.
3-1. The Cardinals could be staring at their first 4-game losing streak if they do not come back in the ninth.
Managers are earning their money today, boy. Nothing has come easy for either side.
Ball 4. So 4 trips. He has been on twice, a single and then hit by a pitch, caught stealing, and he has scored a run.
He hasn't gone deep in a couple of days. It's about due.
2 2-homer games already since the All-Star break. He held 1-0.
Rondon's been ready for a while. He's just playing the waiting game out there in the pen. See what kind of a lead he's going to have to work with.
Second time Anthony's been plunked in the last 2 innings.
Both times by left-handed breaking balls. In this instance, the body language is more frustration that he didn't get a chance to swing the bat in that AB, more so than being upset that he got hit by a pitch.
Manus, just in case. I think it's going to be Manus.
A lot of opportunities for these managers as they go over this ball game in their offices after the game, or their head hits the pillow tonight. They're kind of, well, should I have brought this guy in? Should I have done that? A hit and run that blew up on us.
So Matheny waited as long as he could before being forced to make that move. 7-6.
song that describes not only baseball, but also our business very well, Milo, our broadcasting business. And the line reads, "You may have been a headache, but you never were a bore. Thanks for the memories."
Hey, hey, the Jack Brickhouse bobblehead. What a great giveaway here at Wrigley Field today. And Seth Maness works to Starlin Castro, and a first pitch strike.
And that's something he does quite often. Typically throws that first one in there. Will be ready to swing. Castro took it for strike one. As you look at the numbers for Maness, he's a ground ball pitcher, not to the extent he was last year, but still much more likely to get you to hit it on the ground than in the air.
Bases loaded. 2-out rally.
Starlin 1 out of 4 today. Infield hit back in the 5th. Last time up, he struck out and chased a pitch way up out of the strike zone. Good let up.
2-2.
That's a tough pitch. In a great spot.
Strike 3 to end the inning. Castro telling Mike Molinsky what he thinks. Fans here at the ballpark for the first time, and they love it. The team is trailing here late.
There's Hart and Wrigley. Here comes Hart throwing Hector. He's 2-3. He has a 3.82 ERA. He's got 11 saves and 14 tries. The 3 times he failed to nail it down have all happened here at Wrigley Field. He has an ERA of 5.64 here at home, 0.69 on the road.
Here we go. Rondon to Peralta, and a chopper to third on one bounce. Buena makes the play.
Good start for Rondon, trying to shake those home demons. Quick out will help.
Holiday 2 hits, including a home run to tie the game in the 5th. And a base hit. Holiday 3 out of 5. 3 hits, 2 strikeouts.
Ball's got good running action in on Holiday. He just fights it off. It's down. It's probably a ground out. It's up. He's able to lift it.
Pretty decent chance Adams is going to be hacking here. He has walked 9 times in 340 plate appearances. He's also gone hitless today. He is 0 for 4 with a run scored after grounding into a fielder's choice. Average has gone down 4 points.
Stands in there, big, tall, big, strong guy. Looks like the prototypical pull hitter, you know, with tremendous power, but he will go the other way.
One ball, one strike. Short lead by Holiday. The pitch. A pop up. Valbuena has it. 2 down. Wind blowing out can be a pitcher's friend, and that has been the case a couple of times today. Balls that normally would be pushed out of play. Daniel Descalso off the bench in the pitcher's spot.
Scouting report review time as Chris Bosio makes his way to the mound.
Scalzo 5 out of 22. That's a .227 average as a pinch hitter. Hang on, Sloopy.
The McCoys.
Nice. Got to be a Cub fan out there named Sloopy, right?
A good nickname for a closer. Hang on, Sloopy.
Runner at first, 2 outs. Cubs leading 7-6. Swing and a miss.
Cubs hang on. They will tie the season series with the Cardinals at 5-5.
Nothing in 2. Here it comes. 96. Descalso spoils. Another 0-2. Trying to get him with a backdoor slider and miss the outside. 1-2. Maybe a little low as well. I'll tell you.
There's been a lot of low pitches called today. But that's a tough one to get. But we've seen some low pitches called, including that strike 3 on Castro. More likely to get the fastball down there than the breaking pitch.
The 2-2. Fights that one off. That's Jay on deck. Two balls, 2 strikes. Popped him up. This will do it. Behind second. Castro makes the catch. Cubs win. Cubs win. They come from behind a couple of times today and beat their arch rivals 7-6 the final.